And at the end of the day, the owner of came and sat with me for their reading. And I just said, you're full of shit. This is all a stage setup. This is just a business to you. It doesn't mean anything. And tarot wouldn't record the session. It's all a set. There was nothing real about any of it. But tarot knew that. I didn't. Okay, so there's a little bit of a distinction and a blurring of the lines of who's who when you do a session.
Do you always do the maps in the same order?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the maps that I do are the Dead Reckoning first. This is in person. It's slightly different with Skype for the simple reason that there's so much fuffing around with Skype. I usually leave one or two spreads out because I'm usually on there for an hour and a half anyway. So I start with the Dead Reckoning and I look at the theoretical present, future, past. And the only reason I look at the pack that looks like it's got to do with the past is to see anything to do with that which has already occurred that will have relevance to a person's future. That's it. Then the next one I'm going to do is the Grove, which is 7 lots of 3. That's a biggie. And all those groupings give you lots of story. And sometimes it's all the one story, and sometimes they're all separate stories, but you just don't know till you've got it in front of you. And then the next spread that I'll do, the next map, will be the STARGATE. And then I'll put a warning in there, which is called the horse latitude. Has anybody looked up why I call it the horse latitude yet? What did you discover?
Yeah, I did. That was pretty bizarre that when the ships were going from like the old world to the new world, they would get stuck in this area that they named the horse latitudes. And in that area, then they would start they used to start losing provisions. So then they used to just throw the horses off board.
Yeah. And it was known. So it was known by not only the cartographers, but the captains and the crew all knew that when they got to that particular area, the wind could stop and the doldrums could come in. So once the horse latitude spreads out of the way, I just want to do a continuum. You don't get the person to shuffle and cut them in 3 and pick a pack, and then I'll put the other 2 to the side, but I don't ignore them. I'll just turn them over so I can see the bottom card on each. And then that pack that's in my hand with the continuum, like with a Dead Reckoning spread, except for the 3, I leave the 3 fan shapes off. I read the whole pack, and it reads like a storybook. Then I'll read the other 2 because they'll be one-off things. And those things can blow your fucking mind when they come out with that one thing. And those ones to the side, almost I could say that they're tarot talking, because tarot will pick a subject of significance to that person that may not have turned up anywhere else. Because tarot, as I've said before, is some kind of entity. So it's sitting in the background going, I'll just wait till that spread. I'll wait till that map comes up. And then I'll have my say. And it will. And it'll do that with those extra 2 packs. And then once that's over, you hand them to your client and say, you got any questions? What's going to happen with every event that's going to occur in the next 2 or 3 years? That's going to happen in part. That's what you do in part 1 is the answer to all of it. So you're actually being friendly by giving questions. And that's every 7th card as well in an answer. Because the reason every 7th card is, it's like, how is it possible that those 7 cards can repeat themselves 3 or 4 times throughout a reading? And particularly when there's 7 apart, 6 apart, and then you lay out the 7th, how come you can end up with a whole line that's exactly the same as you got in part 1 in the Dead Reckoning spread? Because it'll happen. Next one.
Sorry, and to add to that, do you get them to shuffle between each one?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Done. I'm done.
And no, it's actually, there's a little touch more that this is actually excellent.
Yeah.
I tell them what the next map will be.
Yeah.
And what's happening then is I'm verbalizing for them, and whether they don't even know it consciously, but what they're doing is they're going, aha, okay, I'm putting that in there. And they may not even know what Dead Reckoning means in the surface of consciousness, but somewhere in the synapses of the brain or their ancestry or those Y nodes, there have been mariners. And so somewhere in the self is their understanding of what Dead Reckoning is when they've worked with the tools that they need on a map to be able to mark exactly where they are at that particular moment on time on a chart. So, and when you say to them, okay, the next spread is a Stargate, you don't need to say what that is. It's almost like, again, it's a symbiosis. It's like when a midwife says, just person goes, oh, back.
So I've got two questions. So hopefully I can remember what both of them are. I'd love for you to talk more about the Grove spread, because it's one that I have never learnt from you directly, and I would love to be able to implement that in what I've got going on. Yeah, so would you be willing to do, and we haven't covered it in the class, I believe, unless you did it last week when I wasn't here.
When I've got the person to shuffle, I'm just going to lay out 7 lots of 3. So each on the top line there'll be 3 lots of 3. Next line there'll be 3 lots of 3, and there'll be 3 lots of 3 at the very bottom in fan shape.
Yeah.
And you just rove, just meander and let your eyes go and see if there's patterns, mathematical patterns, confluences in what relates to what. Does anything relate to anything? And of course this is only going to be understood when you're working with it. But I let myself rove, and very often I'll see a particular grouping up in the left-hand side that's got relativity to the foundation. Quite often each group will have a relativity to the foundation, which is
so kind of cross-communicating.
Yes, in astrology it's actually called a yud. Because, and it's the same with the horse latitude spread. Everything tends to head towards, and even the dead reckoning, everything tends to head towards, in a V shape, towards that whatever card is at the very bottom, or whatever groupings at the very bottom, or closest to you. So that it's being fed or funneled down from all these different experiences into that one at the base. But that one at the base may also stand alone. There's no way I could say that it's an absolute. But I mean, Devil, Death, Tower. Okay, Tower, Star, Death. When the 3, if I've got 2 cards, I've got it. Yeah, I can get it.
Yeah.
One's describing another. It's like saying Black Dog, if I've got 2 cards together. Or Seasonal Festival, if I've got 2 cards together. And the third card will say Seasonal Festival of, and it'll tell you what the actual festival is. The other one could go Black Dog named Spot. You could have that, but the 3 will give you more. Yeah, so each one of those groupings can be read alone, or they can be read interwoven. They can be recognized or related to separately, and one might be separate. One grouping of 3 could be separate, and all the rest could be connected. It does vary like that, just like, I suppose, a population. But it's the same thing, you're just reading patterns.
Yeah. So the second question that I have, if I can just be a hog, is that I'm about to do an event next weekend where I am going to be reading at a place where I'm going to do like little short ones, which for me is pretty huge, because I find that it's so chunky when readings happen, and so I'm looking at 25 to 30 minutes, which I'm like, how am I even going to do that? Like, I can't even comprehend it, honestly. So I would just love I love a recommendation of, how many spreads, what I should do, and how to keep it concise. Yeah. And even in that, while they're coming, it's going to be in a public space.
Yeah.
Do I get them to record?
Can you get a screen or something? You've got to have.
I've got a screen. Yeah.
Make sure you've got privacy.
Yeah.
Because it's not a thing to have in a public space at all, and a lot of these so-called fortune fairs that are around will demand that the people working with them work in a public space, and that's just
yeah. I would just like some, I guess, to work out a way to be able to pull it to be really concise, what spreads you would recommend that I do. And even in that, then if it's quickies, as I would call them, do I record?
Yes.
Do they record?
The first map I suggest is the Dead Reckoning without splitting it into 3.
Yeah.
Stargate.
Yeah.
And then a question. I first of all ask the client to put their phone on airplane mode. And the second thing is you put it on voice memo. And when you finished recording on voice memo, and you've saved it, you get your client to take it off flight mode, and you go back into the voice memo, and there's 3 dots beside the actual recording, and you press on those 3 dots, and one of the options is to share. And you share it to you then click on their email address. The bottom line, it usually says on iPhones, is try sending us an attachment. You'll click on that and it'll go to their inbox, and you say you'll have that now ad infinitum in the air, and you can just keep hold of it. And I always also say to the people, even with a short reading, which I haven't done in forever, in half-hour readings, you cannot afford to be emotionally invested in pleasing that person.
Yeah.
You've just got to tell them and get them out. Otherwise,
what do I charge for that? For
a half an hour reading, you want to charge a minimum $45 to $75 for sure, because I mean my price is going up the end of the year to $185, but I've been charging $150 now for 8 years.
Yeah.
If you charge peanuts, people are going to treat you like a monkey. It's just a currency. It's like just an IOU. It's going to buy you your week's worth of food. And if you're doing this for a specific purpose, and some people that I've been in contact with who are on this group have had to work in circumstances that I consider horrific, and I do consider most of these public groups horrific. They want you to be nice, they want you to give good news, and they tell you what you should and shouldn't do. But the point is, sometimes a body's got to put a roof over their fucking head. Charge what your body's worth, darling, your body.
Yeah.
When you verbalize, you're sending the harmonic of what's necessary between you circulating. So, for example, if you're doing just the Dead Reckoning as a whole map without just Dead Reckoning, then the Stargate, then a question, get them to cut them in 3, yes, because that's, and shuffle them and cut them in 3, because you want that randomness. But at the very beginning, before anything, when you hand them the cards, just say cut them in 3 and pick a pile. I'm going to discard the others. And once you've said it, you've set that intention.
So in that, have I been fucking up by just working, because I just work straight from the top in that without the cutting into 3, and I don't read the 3 as the open spread, like I call it the crack. I'm sure you taught me that.
Yeah. How long ago was that?
Oh, 1,000 years.
1,000.
In the future, past, don't know.
And I've changed my dialogue since then. I've worked so hard at changing my language since 2012 that I may not call a thing what I would have called a thing 6 months ago. What I would have said is it cracks the cards open.
So we can just keep annoying you then for the future, like with all our questions?
This is one Earth, and the webs are everywhere. These webs are incredible, and it's like there can be a bug on the edge of the web 10,000 kilometers away. But I'm feeling it, and you'll feel it, and it's really tricky. I'm just flipping over subjects, by the way. Self-protection. There isn't.
Thank you.
None. It's horrendous. You walk this walk, and the deeper you go down these tracks into Pan's Labyrinth, the trickier it gets. Thursday, it was this week, the black dog hits me like a Thor's hammer. And I'm in this horrendously deep, I might as well die today state. And it doesn't shift. And in the end, all I've got to do is put my headphones on and focus on doing my editing and completely not think of anything whatsoever. And yesterday morning, I get a text message from a person in the Byron region whose children were taken away from her on Thursday because of the manipulation of an ex-partner, and a lot of name calling to do with her and drug abuse, which is it. So she does a bit of ayahuasca, but her children have been taken away from her, and that was what I was picking up. And she's a client, yes, she's been a client 2 or 3 decades. So you don't know where this is going to come from. And was there anything I could do? Stop from killing myself. That was all I could do. And then when you find out, it's like, oh, all drops off you. But it can stay there in the grip like a bear hug. Why does anybody want to do this fucking work? Because it's here to be done, and because it's amazing. But it will have the effect of trapping you or hurting you if you're not wakeful. So self-protection, apart from we've talked about doing the wetting at the end of it, we've talked go for a run, kick a bag, whatever you got to do, just don't hurt the cat, and you'll clear a lot of it. But the other thing that's important, and this also goes back to your question, Ari, earlier about why discuss Jerusalem, why discuss the old Silk Road, why discuss Moses de Leon, why discuss the Rosicrucians, why discuss anything like that. It's to kind of flex yourself enough, and also to recognize yourself as your own authority within the work that you're doing, because this work has been, I mean, it's been written about. I mean, I can remember with Troy, with Cassandra. Cassandra was kicked out because she saw the ships on the horizon, and she said to the king of Troy, danger, we've lost. So she was kicked out. It's called the Cassandra complex, a lot of what this is. But the same thing happened with Hitler, because his astrologer gave him the information that he was going to lose the war, so he had him put in Auschwitz. You know, do we run a risk? Yeah, I told you how many times I've had my life threatened. Why do we do it? Because it's amazing. It's both a science and an art. But without learning the bigger picture, if you just learn tarot, or if you just learn the cards, there was also mention of other people, from you, Luna, and other people doing this. They've just learned the cards. This is the work of a wisdom holder. This is what you've got to understand. This is, you don't got to do anything, and you don't should have to do anything, Nella, before you jump down my throat. But you've got a choice. Who do you want to go to? You want to go to somebody who, again, this is significant. The person concerned that I mentioned earlier, the actor who had to look a certain way to be accepted in the film industry, went to have, because there had been so much pain, somebody recommended a Reiki healer to them. And they went and got, the Reiki healer was actually using acupuncture as well. And because the person that I've sort of taken on a little bit like a puppy, and that's not derogatory because I adore dogs, explained that the person concerned put a needle right between her eyes and she went into needle shock. But the person, the practitioner had already walked out the door. But you see, so many people that you encounter who are doing this work, when they get away from the table or they get away from the pizzazz and see me, give me your money, they're hypocrites. And that's what you'll encounter, and that's the one thing you got to, if you've got a choice, you can stick on the surface and make your bucks out of this. But we'll continue to be Fruit Loops and fucking charlatans and put on the edge of society and not treated with respect when you do go into the bank. And that's not on, because diversity is one of the palettes that makes our species so beautiful.